So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Just subscribe below. And don't forget to hit the bell to get notified when I have new videos out about sex and the world we live in today. Today's video is Quinn Alexander Fontain, trans guy and author of Hung Like a Seahorse. Enjoy. I'm Mo. Today we have a very special guest, Quinn Alexander Fontain. Did I get it right?
You did.
Okay. And Quinn, why don't you tell us who you are, Quinn?
Wow, that's loaded. Who am I? Well, I'm a trans guy. I'm almost 4 years into my transition, female to male. I'm in recovery for a whole lot of stuff. I've written a book, believe it or not, called Hung Like a Seahorse, a real-life transgender adventure of tragedy, comedy, and recovery. And in this book, I just talk about everything. I consider myself a truth teller. If I can't do anything else on the planet, what I can bring forward is truth about my healing, about my journey, about surviving pre-verbal childhood sexual abuse at the hands of my dad, about now forgiving him and making peace with that, around recovery from all kinds of addictions. I'm just realizing we did like my national book tour, and pretty excited. I wrote this book. I sat down to write my third solo show and nothing was coming. And I had the title and that was about it. And I called some friends who had a publishing company. I said, can you pull a book out of me? And they said, yes, we can. And they did.
And the book's title, which
Hung Like a Seahorse. Calming, it's soothing, it helps you get into alignment with mind and body, which I had never been before my transition. I'm almost 4 years into my transition, female to male. September 17th of this year, 2018, will be my 4-year maniversary.
4-year anniversary.
Yeah,
So,
4-year anniversary.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So at what point, you said you started your transition 4 years ago. What exactly does that mean?
That means I got crystal clear about, to save my life, and these are just my words and this is my experience, to save my life, I had to transition. I've been dealing with suicidal ideation since the age of 11, and when my trauma came up for me at age 37, I have major trauma at the hands of my dad, sexual violation, rape, etc., as a baby through toddlerhood, and I didn't remember my life before 11. I had pieced it together through photographs, and so when my life fell apart at 37, and I started doing this intense trauma healing, but my life fell apart, but it finally started to make sense. All the triggers, all the sexual weirdness, all the kinks, all the fear, all the overwhelm, all the sudden crying, just everything made sense.
Right.
And it took, I still do my trauma work, not weekly, but when it comes up, I do the work with a wonderful therapist in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And when I got really clear, because for a long time I thought I had to figure out what came first, the trauma or the trans.
Okay.
And now I realize, and this is my experience, my words, that for me, as a little boy growing up in a female-identified body in rural Virginia in the 70s and 80s, who also liked girls, and couldn't talk about any of this to anybody. There were no 1-800 helplines back then.
Right.
The word transgender didn't exist, and
Right.
I'm looking around my small town like, where are my people? And not seeing them. And like a lot of other trans and or gender nonconforming people around the world, even today, which is amazing with the internet, but back then especially, I thought I was the only one on the planet. And I knew enough to know that every religion that people were talking about didn't welcome me or love me or promote or encourage or include me. And so that fed into a lot of feeling lost, and I call being trans part of my trauma. And it's healable. But because it was a piece I couldn't be with or talk to anybody about, it was a piece I had hid in secret and I felt ashamed of and felt like I was the only one on the planet, like I said. So after years and years and years, literally 13 or more years of trauma healing, I got really clear, like, it's time to do this next piece, this bigger piece. Because it didn't matter what came first, the trauma or the trans. Because I did years of residual healing around the trauma pieces and around all that work.
But until you started doing the transitioning, that piece wasn't going to heal itself. Right.
I had to get really clear. And I'll tell you, I was so scared to transition. And talk about projected out trauma, which would be transference or projection. My fear at one point was, it wasn't in the moment, it wasn't thinking, oh, next thing. It was really picturing out. If I start testosterone, and what if I start testosterone and I don't pass as a male? It's very important to me to pass.
Right.
Some people it's not important, and I'm also lucky that I pass. It's not special, it's lucky, and I get that. But I also choose to live transparently. I don't want to go back in the closet with anything. I don't need to be stealth. Now, there are times that I choose to be stealth. Okay. But I live my life very out loud. You know? Okay. And I say that because early in transition, as before I started the shots, the T shots, testosterone shots, one of my projections and fears was, what if I begin my transition, and what if I just look like an effeminate gay man? Right. And what if I get gay bashed? And what if I'm murdered? Talk about trauma. That was my trauma from my other trauma. Right. Feeding into this one and projecting out. And at one point I was scared to leave my house. Because I'd go to the store and it'd be like, you finding everything you need, ma'am? One all over. Girl, you good? So it was like, who am I? You know, and I didn't have, my core wasn't strong. So I needed the outside world to mirror back that I was safe and okay. Because I didn't feel safe and okay. Right. And I was back to this place in my life, Mo, where I was like, is it safe to have any body for me? Is it safe to be in any body this incarnation? And for a while I didn't know. But I knew I had to stay with the transition. Okay. Because tiny bit by tiny bit, for the first time in my life, I was feeling what it felt like to be in alignment with mind and body matching up. Like that had never happened before consistently. And so that was something that was new. And I started day by day to feel more at home. And now, for the first time in my life, I can say, I'm home. I'm home. Nice. My body temple is my temple. And it's my home. That was like this esoteric idea, this spiritual thing for other people. Because I've had a lot of lists in my life that I can't be a part of. Like, oh, I'll never find the real love, or I can't have that, I'm not this, or this and this. Like a long list of things.
Right, I'm not allowed to.
All of it, yeah. Those or I grew up poor, or I'm not straight, I'm not a cisgendered guy, I'll never meet the right woman. All that, whatever, just talk.
Stories that we tell ourselves from so early on. Yeah. And that's what trauma is. It's those stories that perpetuate.
It's so true. So true.
So you also are sober.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Of course. Okay. April 12th, 2006, I left Los Angeles. I went to a treatment center in Santa Fe, New Mexico called, the name alone got me there. I had been using crack cocaine and drinking for a year and 3 months straight, trying to die. This was pre-transition, this is 12 plus years ago. And at the end of my run, I called my therapist like I had promised her I would do. I promised her I would do.
Like the end of your run? Like a jog?
No, at the end of serious drug and alcohol use.
Okay.
My trauma came up at age 37. Okay. I got in with a therapist here in LA, and I was in therapy 3 times a week for the longest 3 months of my life. And towards one of the sessions at the end of that run, those 3 months, an image of me as a baby in diapers came up. And it's not God, it's not my higher self, it's not my higher power. Something, though, shut that down for me. Something just said, you can't go there, we're not going there, and shut it down. And at the end of that session, my therapist said, okay, my name at the time was Kathleen, and just a side note, a lot of trans people call their birth name their dead name, and they're horribly offended and hurt if you say it. So again, in that realm, I'm different as well. I've made peace with the fact that my name was Kathleen for 47 years. Okay. I'm okay with that, but just to be mindful, if you do have trans friends or are meeting trans people, don't ask them what their birth name was. It's a sensitive subject for a lot of people. Okay. My therapist said to me, Kathleen, at the end of that session just now, did you feel yourself shut down? I said, yeah, I did. There was an image of me as a baby in diapers, and something shut it down. I didn't know what to call it at the time, just something shut it down, and I was grateful. That night, went home, got online looking for sex. You're a sex therapist. And I tell everybody this, but I feel super comfortable with you, and I'm grateful for the work you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to say that on camera, it's really special. There's so many, this is a side note, but it fits right in. There are so many uncomfortable conversations that we need to start having on this planet. And if we can't start having the conversations, then we can't start having real healing. Right. You got to feel it to heal it, and you can't feel it if you're not talking about it. Right. Right? Right. So thank you for what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your story with people. Everyone needs to hear it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's absolutely my honor. Absolutely my honor. So I got home that night, got online looking for sex, And this is back when Craigslist had the casual encounters section. And I was looking for nonsense. And I found it. You know, this wasn't a popular thing. This didn't happen a lot.
Right.
So later when I put all the pieces together, I know that spirit was holding me and taking. So I found a woman on Craigslist that wanted to act out a consensual rape scene.
Okay.
And I got really lit up because after my trauma came up, I was having rape fantasies. I'd never in my life had those fantasies. I'd never in my life thought that was never something that got me excited. That was never a kink. That was never something that got me excited. All of a sudden it was. And I did have a contract with my therapist. If I ever thought I was going to leave, I lived on a sailboat at the time. If I ever thought I was going to leave the sailboat with my bag of tricks, my strap on and all my toys and all that nonsense, going out on some kind of inappropriate, dangerous hunt, if you will, or whatever you want to call it, I had to call her right away and go to the emergency room.
Okay, so you had a history of this at that point.
I had never done any of this.
Okay.
After my trauma came up, and I knew I had been raped, all I wanted to do was the other thing. I wanted to rape. But it wasn't constant. It was just coming up in flashes and moments and desires. So I was speaking truth about that to my therapist, and we had a contract in place.
Okay.
That if I was ever going to go potentially act that out, that I would call her and go to the emergency room.
Got it.
Now that was with, you know, someone I knew or anything else. To find that someone that wanted to act out a consensual rape scene was different.
Right. It's not what you and your therapist had contracted about.
Right. This was a whole different thing.
This is like almost like a play scenario.
Yeah, and you know, this is the first time I'm actually saying this.
Yeah.
I've shared this. It's in my show as well. It's my first solo show. I've never made that connection that I knew I was protected and held down the line. But in that moment, I didn't think, oh, this is amazing, a safe place to go do this. But it was. I met this woman. It could have been crazy, and it wasn't. Thank God.
Okay.
And acted out this scene, and afterwards she's like, "You want some Coke?" And I said, "No, I hate that drip." And she's like, "You want to smoke some?"
Okay.
And I was already at a place in my life mode that it was like, F life. I can't be here. I don't know how to be here. I don't know how to be here with my life story. I don't know how to disengage from my life story. I don't know how to really be with the fact that I was perpetrated as a baby. My welcome to the planet was, it's not safe to be here in your body, and that wasn't even the right body I was supposed to be in. It was just so much. And anyway, when she offered me the crack, no part of me said, oh, Kathleen, you're supposed to say no to crack and heroin.
Right.
No part of me lit up like that. It was just like, fuck life. Can we cuss on this?
We can cuss on this.
We can cuss here. You're at home, just say a couple words you don't normally say. So, and then like within, you know, we just spend all night fucking, talking, processing, smoking, and drinking.
Okay.
The next thing, and I was in therapy 3 times a week. So very soon it was time to go back to therapy.
Right.
And I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, oh God, I gotta go to therapy. And I did. I somehow got there. I drove there and I told the truth. I'm sitting there with my therapist. I said, well, you can probably tell something's up. You know? She's like, I go, I'm high on crack. I'm drunk, but I'm mostly high on crack. And I can't do this kind of intense therapy stuff and smoke crack at the same time.
Right.
I'm gonna go smoke crack. I'll call you when I'm done. And she said, Kathleen, do you get what you're saying? And I said, I do. And she goes, do you know how dangerous that drug is? I said, I do. And I said, I honor the work we've done. I love you. I respect you. I just can't go there. I can't go there. I'm gonna go do this. I'll call you when I'm done.
Okay.
Fast forward 1 year and 3 months.
Wow.
Of smoking and drinking and fucking and processing and being not nonsensical.
Every day?
It was fun for the quickest tiny bit.
Right. That's a lot. I mean, every day.
I got down to 120 pounds.
Wow.
Every day. And it was cute for the first little bit. Yeah, oh wow. And so at the end of it, and this is after 1 year and 3 months, this is after sleeping very little, eating very little, down to 120 pounds. When I knew I was gonna crash out and sleep, I'd take a huge hit and hold it in and watch my vein go slower and slower and slower as I'm holding my breath with all this crack in my lungs. And my only prayer at the time, how amazing that we prayed in such a different way, but my only prayer at the time to a God I didn't believe in or do business with, or whatever,
or any of those things for that matter, was
take me, I'm done. Take me, I'm done. I don't know how to be on this planet. You know, and every morning when I'd wake up, I couldn't believe I was still awake. So it's a miracle I have my teeth. It's a miracle I can form sentences.
Right.
Because at one point in the use, about 6 months in, I'd have a huge hit, then I'd have an epiphany, and it would be, oh my God, I figured it out. I don't remember the rest of the sentence. And that was the sentence. That was the whole thing. So I'd have an epiphany, start talking fully excited, mid-sentence, realize I don't know what the rest of it is, and say that without a pause. Done. And we'd look at each other completely scared, but addicted, and not knowing how to ask for help or put the pipe down, and we'd say, right back at it. And I have a photo. Can I share that?
Yeah.
I actually have a photo. I'm on a book tour, so I travel with these photos to, I think slideshows are a little bit impersonal. So I actually like something I can touch, and these are huge.
Yeah.
But this is a photo of me down to 120 pounds.
Wow. Look at that.
And I don't remember the frame of what we have.
Right, this is probably.
But, wow. And it wasn't like, oh, take a picture of this is sexy, or this is amazing, or you're gonna write a book down the road. No, none of that happened. It was like, capture this moment. Capture this.
This might be the last time you live moment.
Yeah, I don't know that I felt that in the moment, but
Okay.
maybe partly, but something was like, capture this, because this is crazy.
Yeah.
And capture this, because we don't have to stay here, even though that wasn't my thinking at the time.
Right, right.
Something else told me to take a picture of that.
Right.
So I share it, not because I'm proud of it, but this is one of the only times in my life I'm wearing gloves and everything else, because when you smoke crack, you cannot stop working the lighter. So your fingers are all broken and cut from changing hands and trying to do this and work with different fingers because they're all cut. And I mean, I'm talking 24/7, couldn't stop lighting it up.
Wow.
And this was one of the only times in my life I was comfortable being naked, because crack took the curves away like that. You know, so I was very androgynous.
No curves.
But I knew this was crazy. This wasn't, you know, this was crazy. There's another photo in my book from years later where right before I went to Menninger Psych Hospital in Houston.
Okay.
And I'd had a psychotic break. I hadn't been able to shower for 6 weeks. I'd taken French baths.
When was the psychotic break, before or after?
This is right after I started testosterone.
Oh, okay. So
years later.
Years
I'm
later.
bumping around.
Okay.
Bouncing around.
Okay, that's okay.
No pun intended with bumping around. If you're out there doing coke, put it down. There's help for you. You don't have to do that. I'm a miracle. I'm not saying that to toot my horn or anything. I never wanted to. I didn't start choosing life, to be honest. I didn't start choosing life until the last about a year and a half. And I'm almost 4 years into my transition, and there was a rough road in the beginning of that. But if you're out there struggling, just hold on, you know. Hold on to life, hold on to love, hold on to people that you know you can reach out to. And the biggest thing is about isolating. You know, there's a great saying in recovery that says, there's an I in illness and a we in wellness. And that's literally the verbiage and the truth of it.
Right.
We can't do it alone. So
yeah. Community is so important for healing and just for being, right? Without community, we don't grow. Without community, we can't change. We don't have the reflection of ourselves.
Sure.
So when we experience trauma, we have a tendency to want to go hide, shut away from the world, but we actually prevent ourselves from growing. So do reach out for help 100%. There's someone out there that can help you. If you're in Los Angeles, there's free clinics everywhere. There's 800 numbers. So.
And with whatever you're struggling with, there's no reason anymore in this day and age of the internet and so many people wanting to be about help that we need to suffer in silence. So
tweet this.
Manly.
Girls time.
Manly.
we got a product coming. That shit sells. For him and her, his and hers.
I'm watching this. This is all going in.
LGBTQ753124. Here's the deal. Someday, we're going to get real and not have to have any of those labels. We're going to realize we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And for my agnostic and atheist friends out there, just go straight to earthlings. We are earthlings. Okay? Right? Deal?
Yeah.
Right here. You saw it right here.
Even everybody's got it. A little elbow screw.
Check. Check.
Check your elbow screw.